This meeting is being recorded.
So today I'm going to basically walk you through the steps that are involved in creating data visualizations with this particular tool that I introduced you to a couple of days back. It's called Flourish. And this is also the tool that is going to be that you will be using when you are creating the project which will happen over the weekend.
Sarwan, please unmute yourself. Sarwan, please mute yourself. Sarwan.
Yeah, so today is going to be completely practical. So there is no PPT presentation for you today. I don't know if that's a good news or a bad news. Today it's going to be completely practical demonstration of how you can create data visualizations, different types of data visualizations with a particular set of data. And basically, as I mentioned in my beginning session about creating the big picture versus the details. So how do you use data to create both the big picture visualization as well as the detailed visualizations where comparisons are made. So that's what we are going to do. So I'll just share my screen now. So my screen is visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Visible. So before we create any kind of visualization, we need data because on the basis of data, we create visualizations. So this is an Excel sheet that I have with me. And this Excel sheet has data about Indian states and union territories and the consumer price indices for the month of October 2020. This is the total, all groups. This is the total consumer price index statewide. And this is the typical metrics on which consumer price index is usually mapped. So one is the consumer price of food and beverage. One is pan, tobacco and intoxicants, which includes liquor. One is clothing and footwear, and fuel and electricity and kerosene. So these are the key metrics that are usually taken into account while creating the final or while coming up with the final consumer price index of India. And this is statewide and union territory wise. You can see all the states and the union territories. And this at the end, you will see the all India. And this is the all India average. So in October 2020, the all India average consumer price index was at 158.4. This was the consumer price index in India on an average. But across states, you will see different numbers. This is the total. And when it comes to the different metrics, fuel and light, clothing and footwear, pan, tobacco and liquor, food and beverage, there will be again different numbers. And again, in all India, you will find there are different numbers. This is the average figure. Now, the idea is that this is an Excel sheet. I see a lot of data state-wise. How do you basically visualize this data into something that is meaningful? So converting this Excel sheet into this is what we are going to do. What I'm going to basically tell you today. So this is the same data from that Excel sheet that is being used to create the big picture visualization, which is, this is the map of India. It shows state UT-wise consumer price indices for the month of October. The all India average consumer price index is 158.4 for October 2022. This is the legend, which is the lowest CPI that any state recorded, 146.8, to the highest that any state recorded, which is 179.4. This is the legend. And basis this legend, you will see states have received a color and you can see a pattern. So this is the big picture visualization being created from that particular Excel sheet. Now when I look at that Excel sheet, it looks a lot of data. It can be confusing. You don't exactly make out what's going on. But when you look at that data in this visual, you can clearly see certain things. You clearly see that when consumer price is mapped to different states, this is the total consumer price index in October of 2020, you will find that North India, Central India, and West India, North, Central, and West, the consumer price index is much lower in these states compared to Northeast India, East India, and even South India. You will see these are darker colors, which means, and as you hover over them, you will see the overall CPI number. So the highest, for example, the highest consumer price index is recorded, which is the darkest, is Manipur in October 2020. This is the highest. Second highest is again somewhere in Northeast, it's Tripura. But compared to Gujarat, it had a 151.6, and these states are 179.4 and 173. So you see a pattern now when you put this data in that Excel sheet in the map of India, which is shown state-wise, and you can see a pattern. This is the big picture. Now remember when in the beginning of this course, the first day session, I told you there are 4 different elements of visualization. The first was the scaffolding layer. What is the scaffolding layer in this visualization? This legend, which shows the color from light blue to dark blue and shows the number 146.8 to 179.4. So this is the scaffolding layer. The second I told you was the encoding layer. What is the encoding layer? That is data that is encoded into certain shapes. Here, data has been encoded into the geographical boundary of a state. So you hover over Himachal and it says Himachal Pradesh CPI is 151.3. You hover over Uttarakhand, it shows you 156.1. Uttar Pradesh, 157. So this is the data has been mapped to the geographical boundaries of states. So this is the encoding layer. What about the third layer? Annotations layer. Annotations layer is the text. So this text, state, UT-wise, consumer price indices for the month of October 2020, the all India average CPI is 158.4. This text, this is the annotation layer, as well as the names of the states written over their geographical boundary, Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, the 2 new UTs, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab. So the text, which is the name of the state, these are the annotations layer. What about the me layer? The fourth layer, as I said, was the me layer. Me layer is giving the audience the control to look at a visualization and get their own data. So here, as I am hovering over the states, I'm getting the overall consumer price index of that state. I'm getting this. So this, the pop-up that appears as I go over this states is the me layer. There is another me layer. You see this search box as I click on it, because I can't see Delhi. So when I will write Delhi and choose Delhi, and it will show, the map will show Delhi is at 151.2. So this is giving control to the audience to basically maneuver through a visualization and get their own data. So these are this is the me layer. So all 4 layers are built into this. This is the big picture, the bird's eye view of this Excel sheet. From here, it has been transformed to this. This is what we'll do today. Now, this is the big picture. What we'll also do today, from here, we build a detail. Now, from the big picture, we'll go to the detail. So what is this detail? What is this particular bar graph about? It's state UT wise total CPI in October 2020. Because in the earlier visualization, I have to actually go through or hover over every state and get data, right? Now here I have all that mapped in the form of a bar graph. It's a column bar graph. I can see all the states, and this red line you see over here, the red line, this is the all India average. So I can clearly see in this visualization the states that are above average CPI, the states that are below average. For example, this is the highest. See, Manipur, I can clearly see 179.4. The second highest, Tripura, 173.4. The lowest, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, the Union Territory, at 146.8. So this is the detail. I can see the states, this is the comparative analysis of states. This is the detailed visualization where all the states and UTs have been put together, and there is a clear indication of the states that are above the average consumer price index and below the average consumer price index in October 2020. So this is again the detailed layer. Now this is the overall CPI, and I can even go deeper. So this is the third visualization that's being built. These are the top 10 states and union territories with high food and beverage consumer price index. Now, when I was looking at this particular Excel sheet, there was one metric, food and beverage, right? And under food and beverage, there were 36 UTs and states listed. But I wanted to just look at the top 10 states that were the highest in food and beverage consumer price in India. And from that sheet, I have generated this visualization. The average food and beverage consumer price is 164.8, which is this red line you can see. And these are the 10 states that are above average. You can clearly see the states, the 10 that are above that average, and the highest being Manipur at 189. Then 183 is Lakshadweep, Andaman, Nicobar, Kerala, Tripura, Bengal, Goa. You can see the numbers, and you can see that this is the red line, which is the average food and beverage consumer price, and how these particular 10 states are very, very high on food and beverage consumer prices. So these are the states that we need to look at from a policy point of view. When I look at these detailed visualizations, I clearly know that, okay, so I'll need to work on these states. What is causing the CPI, the consumer price, to be so inflated in specific these states? I can't do that by looking at this Excel sheet, right? So these are the different visualizations that have been built using just that one Excel sheet, right? The big picture visualization of entire India, which gives you a bird's eye view. It gives you a pattern that North, West, and Central India have low consumer price index, while Northeast, East, and South have high consumer price index. It gives you an overview. The rest gives you the detail of which are those states, what's happening in the total CPI, what about food and beverage specifically, which are the 10 states. So this is how things are being developed. Now let's jump on. So this is the Excel sheet I have. I hope everyone by now have created their Flourish account. I had requested the day before that you should create your Flourish account. So this is my Flourish account, and I'll show you how to create these visualizations, which is the big picture visualization on a map, and how do you create those detailed visualizations from the same set of data, how you can create different visualizations. So first thing, this is my home page, projects page. As I said, once you log in, you will directly come to the projects page and you go to new visualization. This is where I click. And as I showed you earlier, these are the options that you will be shown that are available in Flourish. Now, the option that I'm going to pick first is the big picture. For the big picture, I need the India map. And to be specific, I need the India state map, the states boundaries, not the districts or the assembly constituencies. I need the state map. So I click on the state map. This is a preloaded template that is available inside Flourish, and it is preloaded with some dummy data. But I would want that my data that's in that Excel sheet, I will bring that data here. Before I bring that data here, I need to clear up certain things from this particular dummy data that's available. So as I click on that, it automatically loads this particular visualization with preloaded data. Now, there are certain things that I do not want here, like it has this particular Delhi population and Jaipur population, Kanpur written in a bad English, Lucknow population. I don't want to show all of this, right? I also do not want to show what Flourish in this particular map is showing. These are showing certain, lines which are the line of control, the line of actual control, the disputed areas. So I do not want to show all these lines. You see, these are the black lines that are being shown. These are the LOC, the LSC, the disputed area lines. So I don't want to show all of them. So how do I get rid of them? So first things first, this is the preview. I'll click on the data button, right? I'll go to points. There are 4 buttons here on top: regions, geometry, points, and lines. First, I'll go to points. Points is where those city-wise population is being shown in that particular map, right? What I'll do, I don't want to show this because my data is only on the basis of states. So what to do here? Besides points, you look at this drop down, there is a button, click here, and you will have clear sheet option. Just click on clear sheet and it's off. Now you go back to the preview, you will see those population data is no longer shown. The population data is gone, right? As simple as that. Same way, I'll come to the lines button, right? Lines. So lines are showing those disputed international border, the LAC, like line of control, and all of that. Again, this is something I do not want to show in my map. So what do I do here? Same thing. Besides lines, drop down, clear sheet. Okay. Go back to my preview. You will see now you have a clean map. Now you have a clean map of India. It only has the states and the the state boundaries, the state geographical borders. That's it. You don't have anything else. This is how it's shown. But the color coding, as you can see, is shown basic certain preloaded data. Now, where do you find that data? You go to regions, you see the states, and this is the value because there is some sample data being loaded here. So basis this sample data, those color codings are being seen. Now, this is where I need to do the editing. Now, what I want to show from this Excel sheet, I obviously want to show the states in the big picture, and I want to show the total CPI, which is all groups. This is the column that I want to show in my map. State-wise, this particular data, which is the column G. This is the column that I want to show in my map. So what do I do? Simple thing. I'll just click on Andhra Pradesh. I'll copy this entire list of states, okay? Till Puducherry, right? Control C. I come here. States. Click on the first state that you can see over here. The first state, here it is in alphabetical order. I'll click on the first state here and Control V. I think I didn't do a Control C. Let me go back to the Excel. Control C and come back here. Control V. Yeah, now it's done. So now I have all the states as per my Excel sheet, right? But there's an extra here in the preloaded data that was here. There is Ladakh, but in my Excel sheet, there is no Ladakh. It's just Jammu and Kashmir. So the Excel sheet did not have Ladakh as a separate entity. So what I'm going to do here is I'm basically going to delete Ladakh from this data in Flourish. I have deleted data about Ladakh. So now I have these, right? But now the value needs to change. So this is state name, this is value. First of all, I'll change here to state stroke UT name, right? And the value, I'll change the value to total CPI, right? Now I need the data about the total CPI. Again, I go back to my Excel sheet. So from Andhra, I'll select this particular column till Puducherry. Okay, till Puducherry, Control C, come back, click on the first, Control V. So I'll just check if everything is populated till Puducherry. Yes, it populated. So all the total CPI of these states as per Excel sheet is populated. Now let's go back to the preview. So this is the preview that I'm seeing. Now you can see the legend has changed to 146.8 to 179.4 because Flourish is automatically detected from that data that the minimum value is 146.8 and the maximum value is 179.4. And hence, this is how the map has been populated on color coding based on the new data. But there is a problem. Jammu and Kashmir is missing. Entire Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh is missing. So what happened? I'll have to go back to data and see what exactly happened to Jammu and Kashmir. What happened to Jammu and Kashmir? I had the data of Jammu and Kashmir. Yes. So why is Jammu and Kashmir missing from my map? Because there is a star mark here. So I'll just delete the star mark. Okay. Because it does not understand special character like star mark inside the name. The moment I do it, I will go back and see, I'll see Jammu and Kashmir. But wait, now Ladakh is missing. So what do I do with the Ladakh? Because I don't have any data for Ladakh, but because I don't have data, I deleted it. So Ladakh is missing from the map. So what I'll have to do, go back to my data, come to the bottom, and there is something called add. There is a plus sign. There is one more rows. So you can add rows here, right? You can add row, or you already have a row 38. So you can add row here. You click on add row 1, you will see another row has been added. So what I'll do here is I'll create Ladakh. I'll show Ladakh. And because Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir have the same data as per my Excel sheet, so I'll go and check Jammu and Kashmir. And where is Jammu and Kashmir gone? Yeah, 163.3. I'll control C this and control V this. Okay, so I've got Ladakh. Now let's see what happens. Is Ladakh showing? Still not showing. Why? Because I think they have made, as per geometry, the region's geometry, Ladakh is listed as LADAK. So that's the problem. So what I have to do is I'll have to go here and I'll click here and say LADAK. Now I'll do a preview. See? So now Ladakh is available. And I have the entire map of India, and I have the exact Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh will reflect the same CPI, because as per government data, they gave the CPI of Jammu and Kashmir in October 2022, which was a cumulative of both the UT data. So that's why we'll show the same data here for Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. So the basic data has been put into my map. The big picture map, it has been put into. Now what else do I have to do? So the projection is done. The next thing that I have to do here is header, which is the headline of this particular visualization. So what is the headline? This is state UT wise CPI for October 2020, and it will appear here. See, state UTY, Union Territory wise consumer price index for October 2020. You can add a subtitle here. What I'll add as a subtitle, the all India average CPI for October 2020 is what? I don't know. I'll go to the Excel sheet. So it is 158.4. So I'll come here and say it is 158.4. So this will appear as a subheading. So title and subtitle is both added. So I now know this. What else? What is the source of this data? And that will not come in the header. Where it will come? In the footer. You will see there is something called footer. Click on footer, and you see there are certain sample sets that are already provided here. I'll delete the source URLs. And what is the source of my data? The source of my data is Union Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. That's the source of my data. And what we'll see here, once you put that in the footer, you will see right at the bottom, you will see this source, Union Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So now you have the annotation layer is ready. You have the text over here, you have the text on top, the title and the subtitle, that is all added. right? And you can see the state-wise data. This search button is automatically added. If anybody wants to search for a particular state, they can automatically search. That's it. I don't have to do anything else, right? What I'll do next is I'll copy this title, Control C, and see it is written Untitled Visualization by Anjan Chakravarti, and it is private. I'll give this the name, okay? State UTY CPI. I given it a name now. So now it is a titled visualization. I've named this visualization. And what I'll do next is export and publish.
Then you need to study more.
Okay.
I just need to, I don't know, somebody mute
Study
yourself.
within 40 minutes, okay? Huh.
Ranjana, can you please mute yourself? Or Anjana, I don't know. So once I have added the title, everything else looks fine in this map to me. It is done as per the data that was in my Excel sheet, and I'll go export and publish. When I click on export and publish, it is saying not publish, publish to share and embed, right? So I'll click on this button, publish to share and embed. And it will ask you, publish this visualization. This project will be published to its own page where you and others can see, share, and embed. You just, do you require a password to open? This is basically a premium thing which you cannot do, so you won't require a password. Allow anyone to duplicate this project. I usually allow people to duplicate my projects, so I'll just click on publish. The moment it is published, it will give you three things. A, it will give you a web link that you can share with anyone and they can view it. Second thing they can do is they can embed this in a website. They can download as an image. And of course, there are more options here. But what I only do is I'll just click on this link and it will show me how this visualization has been created. So this visualization has been created in Flourish. This is a unique ID for this visualization that I have created. And this is clear, this big picture. I'll just lower the zoom so that you can see the entire map. Yeah, so now you can see it, right? So this is how it is done. It basically takes about 15 minutes to build it. Something as simple as this. This is the big picture data that I have built, the same one that I gave an example. So this is how you create a big picture data with map visualizations, where you can show your audience a particular trend across geography. As you can see, the trend of consumer price in October 2020 was that north and west and central part of India, they had lower consumer price index compared to northeast, east, and the south. These states had much higher consumer price in the month of October. So it gives you a picture of what's happening across. When government comes out with such data, it gives the total CPI, consumer price index figure. It gives you the quarter to quarter rise or fall in terms of percentages. But this is how you go into the detail. You see how state-wise consumer prices are affected. So a person staying in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh is actually spending much less to buy products, whether it is food and beverage, fuel, electricity, tea, anything, compared to people staying in Assam, Manipur, Tripura, Arunachal, West Bengal, Odisha, even Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. These states are paying much, much more money. So people who are staying in these states are actually spending more money to get their basic requirements or basic consumer requirements in their families, while these states are paying much less. So you see a trend. So that is the big picture visualization. Is that clear how to do that? This is now published, and you can even embed these in a website. You can download it as an image. So if I click here, download image, you will see you want to what size you want, which format you want, and you can basically download this as a visual image that can be used in any kind of presentation or even publication, research. You can download this as an image to show the big picture of what's happening as far as this particular data set is concerned, and how distribution of consumer prices across states of India is so skewed in favor of the north, west, and the central, while the east, northeast, and south are actually paying much more. So that's one data. Now let's build the detailed data. How about building the detailed data sets from this same Excel sheet? I want to show, but this map does not give a comparative analysis. Like I have to go and hover over each and every state to find what is their consumer price index for that particular month. So how do I create a detailed one from this Excel that gives me a clear picture? Now, from what I can do, this is what I have created.
Excuse me, Mr. Anjal.
Yeah.
There is one participant who wishes that you can, would you please repeat the steps?
Repeat the steps. Okay.
Hello, sir. I have also one doubt, sir.
Sorry?
I have also one doubt, sir. If I need to project one state, means how I can do how I can project one state?
How you can project?
Like I need to take in this picture. I need to project Kerala or Tamil Nadu to my
Okay.
presentation. How I can to project this
You
only one
basically
state time.
you want to project one state. Basis what? I mean, why?
Sir, in the whole
In this
whole
map,
picture, I need to project or I need to
you want to
make
highlight one state.
yeah, sir. While my presentation, what I need to do, sir.
So this particular data set is built on the this legend, right? The lowest and the highest, and this is the legend on the basis of which the color shades are being provided, right? And that's why you see Manipur has the darkest color. And if you are looking to create different color projections for different states, then there are different controls that you will have to look to, but that will create different, I would say, different patterns, not just one state, because this is mapped. This color shading is mapped to this data, right? This data. It is mapped to this data. Now, if projecting one particular state, which has why is it projecting Manipur in a different? Because it's an outlier. Now, if you are trying to project one particular state in a different color, then this projection map will not work at all. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because this layer is mapped to a particular data set.
What I said means in the whole picture I need to only mention one state CPI. That I am saying means I need to like highlighting with these colors only, but I need to highlight the Kerala or some MP or something, a particular state which is
Yes, I
in this
understand your
cycle.
question, but this entire color shading which is done in this particular map is on the basis of the data, which is the CPI data, right? And the CPI data highest to lowest, accordingly, as you can see this legend, accordingly the color shades are given. So you cannot change the color shade of a particular state. If you want to do that, this entire data from which it is taking the visualization needs to change. You understand what I'm saying? So that is not possible in a projection map. A projection map will project certain color code on the basis of the data that is provided and the legend that is being mapped to. So that will
Okay,
require
Siddharth.
a different set of controls. If you, despite the fact that in this particular case, Manipur has the highest CPI and hence it is showing the darkest in color, but you want to project in this map, say Andhra or Tamil Nadu should be shown in green, or Telangana should be shown in red. That will require a different set of controls, which will not be possible in a projection map. I understand your question, but that is not possible to do in this particular projection map. Is that clear? There was somebody else
Yes, sir.
asking another question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
The question is in message box. Can you see
And
message
question
box?
is,
In message box, it is about like the
you
step wise. Yes, I am trying to read, but where the question is gone.
Dr. Sandhya,
Yeah, Dr.
could you
Sandhya.
repeat the steps? Okay, so repeating the steps. I'll go back to home, new visualization, projection map. I go to India states. This is by default how the preview of India map will come up based on sample data. I need to clear certain things from this map, which is two things: these black spots, which gives the population of certain cities. And I need to basically get rid of these lines, which are disputed territories, the line of control, the line of actual control. I need to get rid of all of this from this particular template. So how do I get rid of them? I go to this button called data. And the third and the fourth tab is points and lines. I go to points first. This is where the city-based population data is given. Click on this down arrow, click on clear sheet, and it's deleted. Same, go to lines. This is where all the disputed lines, disputed territories, line of control, line of actual control, all those lines are given. Again, I click on this button, clear sheet. Now what I have is a clean map of India with the geographical boundaries of states. I don't have city specific buttons, or I don't have any of those line of control, line of actual control, disputed area lines are not visible. It's plain and simple. So I cleaned up the map first. That's the first thing to do. The second thing to do is I want to put the data that I have in my Excel sheet in this map. So how do I do that? So as you can see, when I go back to the map, in the data part, the first tab is regions. And you can see in the region, you'll have state name column and a value column. So in these two columns, I want to bring the states names that I have in my Excel sheet, and the value column will have the total CPI of these states, right? So for first, what I'll do, I'll change the name of the column. From state name, I'll write state UT name. Second, in this column, instead of value, I'll say total CPI. Okay, so I'll rename the two columns. Then what I'll do, I'll go back to my Excel sheet. I'll click on Andhra Pradesh, which is the first state in this Excel sheet. And I'll copy this entire column till the last state or UT that's available to me, which is Puducherry. Okay, So Control C, I just click Control C, come back in this visualization, and here I'll just put Control V. So all my states are now listed here according to my Excel sheet. Second, this sample value needs to be changed to the value that I have on my Excel, which is the total CPI, which is listed under column G, all groups, the total CPI state-wise. So I'll click on 160, which is the first data set. And from there, I'll move to Puducherry, which is the last in this row, because the last row is about all India average. So I'll again do a Control C, come back here, Control V. Okay, so I've put, I think now different colors are coming. Don't know why. So this is what I have done. Now, as you can see, there is this particular name in the state and UT name column. Jammu and Kashmir has a star mark. So this is something that needs to be deleted. The star mark needs to be deleted because it doesn't understand special characters in a name field. So I'll have to delete Jammu and Kashmir's star mark. Only then Jammu and Kashmir will show up. Otherwise, it won't show up. That is one thing. The second thing is, in my data set, I don't have Ladakh, but in this particular Flourish stuff, you have Ladakh listed. Because in October 2020, the entire Jammu and Kashmir data that was given, it was for both the two regions, which later became two different UTs. So I'll basically copy the same here and put it here. Otherwise, Ladakh won't appear, right? So I've basically put the same CPI data of Jammu and Kashmir in the Ladakh field, and I'll go to preview. So this is how now the map looks on the basis of this legend. What is this legend? 146.8 is the lowest CPI that is available in the data, and 179.4 is the highest CPI that's available in the data. So Flourish tool automatically recognizes that the data has a range from 146 to 179, and it's automatically creating this legend from white to light blue to dark blue. And on the basis of that, the data and this legend, it is creating the different shades of blue across the states that are mapped over here. Okay. Now once
Sir,
this is
can I
done,
change the color, sir?
sorry?
Can I change the color?
Yes, you can change the color. There are colors, there are regional layers that you can change. So there are stuff that you can do with aesthetics. But before you build the aesthetics, you need to build the basic things, which is the header and the footer. So first is header, which is the title of this visualization, which is state UT wise CPI data for October 2020. And you'll see you have named the visualization. You can create the subtitle, which is the average all India CPI for October 2020 is, I think, 158.4. That's what my Excel sheet says. So it becomes, this is your title, this is your subtitle. Now the person who is visualizing has a clear understanding what this data is all about, what the legend is all about, what's the average CPI. And in the footer, so as you go down, once the header is done, in the footer, you will see again some sample source of data is given. So you click on footer, and you basically, there are URLs. You'll see source URL, source URL. You delete this source URL. If you have data from any URL, you can provide. Source name is something is a must. So here it is Union Ministry of Statistics. I'll just write Union Ministry of Statistics. And there is something else here. I don't want to say anything else. So now source is Union Ministry of Statistics. So you have a, basically you're also giving your audience from where this has been sourced, and the text is displayed. You can, if you want to put any logo here, so there is a provision of a logo which is currently disabled. You can put a logo or any image here in the footer. If you want to put a image, there is this option called logo image, currently disabled. If I enable it, it will ask you to put an image, and basically the link of the image has to be provided, and that image will show here. So this is another option if you want to do in footer. Same thing for header. When you go to the header section, you will find what are the things that you can do. You can even provide styling, right? So if in the headline, if I click on styling, you will see that how this is changing, and you want to put alignment, center, it becomes center. You want to bold, italics, size, you can do changes to that. You want to change the styling of subtitle, you click on styling, and again you can change the size, weight, space of the subtitle. These are all the additional options that are there. You want to put a logo and image over here in the header. Again, it is possible. It is currently disabled. You enable this and you provide an image. You can upload a file from your computer. If you want any file that you have, you want to show here, you can show that option is also available. Or you have a link to an image, you can put a link. So image you can put in both header and footer. There are lots of additional options that are available. Then there are options in layouts. So what is the main font and the font color? So it's in black, right? And the font is Source Sans Pro. You want to change the font, you want to change the text color, which is this color, you can change that. You want that background color is white, you want to change the background color to red, and the background color will become red. So these are different aesthetic tools that are available here. You can do that. I'll change it back to white. So these are the layouts changes that you can do. Show borders around visualization. When I click here, it will show borders around visualization, the black borders here, the solid borders. I don't want them. You don't want to show them. That is also fine. So these are tons of various aesthetic stuff that's available. You want to know how search box. So I have the search box is automatically enabled for both regions. So somebody wants to search in this search box by a particular state or by a particular value point. They can search by both. If you don't want people to search, you disable this entire thing. You see the search thing goes off, right? So these are different options that are available. There are pop-ups, panels. So what is the current pop-up is this. When I hover, there is the pop-up is Uttarakhand total CPI 156, right? That is how it is shown. So this is now, it is automatic. Now you can do custom and you can show a different kind of stuff. There are styles. You can give a pop-up header that this will show different stuff. Then you can write custom content, what this will show. If somebody hovers over Uttarakhand, it will not show total CPI 156.1, but it will show some other content. It will show something else. Again, possible. You can do that with a custom content. But currently, I'm not providing custom. I want the data to come from the Excel sheet, which is there in the data sheet. So there are various controls that are available. Alignment controls. region controls, point controls. So this is what alignment control is about, how these should be aligned, spacing of these letters, region type. I mean, there are tons of other controls that are there. Then drop down, if currently this one doesn't have a drop down. So see, the button style is selected. This is the color that is selected, right? You want to change this complete color to green. But because this doesn't have a drop down, it is all basis drop down. So I don't have a drop down in this particular thing, so it will not show anything here. But if you want to show a drop down, if there is something called, if there is a projection map where you have a drop down list, then it's different. But I don't have a drop down in this control, so that is not showing me, that is not giving me that option here. This regions layer, again, it basically shows, you know, this particular, that it is shown in black, right? When I hover, the region is shown in black, the inner stroke. Now you want a different color, it will show. You want to show, include all region geometry. You can show the outlines are currently shown. You want to show it off, you will see that the outlines are not there. You want to on, now you can see the white outlines are there. There are a lot of such different, so the palette here is blues. Somebody said you want to change the palette of the entire thing. So it's in palette, I changed to red. Now you see the legend and the entire thing has been changed to red. You want to change the palette to, I don't know, purple, and it will show the map in purple. So this is in regions layer. You can show any particular region, the entire map in a different color. These are options that are available. You want to show in completely plasma color, it will show like this. Doesn't make any sense because this does not give the audience what I'm trying to show. So it has to be in single color. And so you can choose from palettes. So this is what, these are the different things that are possible as far as the aesthetics of how do you create a map, and how do you create the look and feel of the map. But I'm more interested in showing you to how to create this, and aesthetics part is much easier to do. So next thing, I'll copy this title, I'll name this visualization, and I'll click on export and publish. It is showing not published, publish to share and embed. Click on publish to share and embed, publish this visualization, and I'll click on publish. Now it is published. Once it is published, it will give you a public link. You click on the public link and your visualization will show. Is that clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay, so I think I've run out of time to show the other, because I had to repeat the steps. There are detailed, how do you show those detailed ones that I showed you earlier. So click on home, click on new visualization, and I want to create bar chart. So this is a bar chart option that again comes with preloaded values. I don't want to show, my data has to be from this Excel sheet, and I want to show the same data in with specific state-wise data should be shown here, right? So how do I show the specific state-wise data? So first of all, I don't need these 4 different columns in a bar, right? I will go to data. So data I will see is year, column 1, 2, 3, 4 by default. What I'll write here is state UT, right? Column 1 is total CPI. Okay. And because I don't need column 2, 3, and 4. Now in here you will see labels. A is what the first label is. Value, it is selected B to E. B to E is these columns, B, C, D, E. 4 columns. That's why you see these 4 lines. I will just ask it to look at B. Okay, so now even though these columns and numbers are there, it will only look at A and B, right? It will not look at anything else. Now what I do, I come here and same thing, Andhra Pradesh. I'll go down to Puducherry, Control C, come here, and here Control V. So now I have all the states except for Jammu and Kashmir. I need to basically delete that star mark again because special characters are not available here. Again, I'll go up and I'll go back here. I'll go to the total CPI. I'll copy the total CPI. Control C again, come back here, paste Control V. So I preview now. So now it is showing data state-wise, and it is showing how states are. But this is not a feasible way to look at data, is it? This is not exactly a feasible way. So can I change the chart type? Instead of bar chart grouped, can I change to bar chart stacked? Doesn't change. What about column chart? Doesn't change. I'll look at column chart grouped. Yeah, so now this looks feasible, right? Now this looks like, yeah, this data looks feasible to me, all the states, but they're at the bottom. So I don't want these states to look at the bottom. So this is my x-axis. I'll go to x-axis. So the position is at bottom. I want it on top. What happens now? The states are at the top now, right? The states are at top. And I can see this is Manipur, that's at highest. Again, I'll need to first, the most important thing here is, again, as I said, header and footer. X-axis I changed so that the names of the states appear on top. But I need to show what is the average CPI, which is 158.4. So I need to show that line. How do I show that? In this particular column bar chart, there is something called annotations here. Okay, there's something called annotations. So I click on annotations, right? Here is the annotation. So where do you want to highlight the annotation, in x-axis or y-axis? I want it to be highlighted in the y-axis. This is the straight line I want. So I'll say show highlights on y-axis. And you can label it, right? How do you want to format it? I know it is, what is the average CPI? 158.4. So I'll write average CPI double colon 158.4, right? So you'll see automatically a line is appearing. Now I will show the line color to be red. And I don't want it to be a dash. I want it to be a straight line. So I'll make it 0. And I want a darker line width. So I'll make it 4. So now you see, after I added the annotations layer, not changed, is an internal error. Okay. Okay. So now I can see this line represents the average CPI. And I can see clearly which are the ones on top of the red line, which are the ones at the bottom of the red line. And I can see the state that's on top and the states that are on bottom. If you want to highlight the states on top even more, what you can do is range highlight on y-axis. You can do a range highlight. What is the range highlight? Add double colon. Your range is 158.4. That is the average. And you double arrow and 180, right? So what will happen here? It will show a different shade. Opacity, I want it to be in this color. And I want a higher opacity. So now it is even more visually meaningful for people that, okay, so I can clearly see the states that are above the red line and the states that are lower the red line. That is the annotations. This is very important particular tool that's available, annotations. Put the header and the footer as same, which is the name, give a title to the visualization, publish. As simple as that. You have a clear understanding from this state-wise comparison. You are looking at the average, you're looking at the ones that are above average, you're clearly looking at the ones that are below average. Did I make sense? Yeah. So you can again publish this. I will just create a header, which is say state UT wise CPI. So it's now available. I'll give it a center alignment. I can give a footer, which is again this. I'll write basically the source is Union Ministry of Statistics, and it will show up at the bottom, as you can see here now. And I'll go on top, copy this, come here, paste this, and publish. Publish. So now it has created a link. Click here. So this is now published. Now you can clearly see this is in detail. This is visualization in detail that clearly tells you the average line. This is the average CPI and the ones that are above and the ones that are below. Make sense? How to create detailed presentation, visualization, sorry, about columns in Flourish, and the earlier one was about the big picture. I think I am way past my scheduled time slot, and I hope my next speaker is not too annoyed with me. I took 15 minutes over time.
Anjan, there is some problem in my system.
Yeah.
I can't see my screen. It has gone blank. So you make Shweta host. Now it's okay.
Yeah. So I will, if there are no questions, I mean, just go around, flourish,
So
start
what
building
will be the
stuff.
reason that my screen went blank?
I have no idea. Is everybody else able to see the screens, and
okay.
everybody
Now
else
it's
able
okay.
to see Professor Dhulia?
The moment you stop sharing, it's okay now. Yes, it's done.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So I'll make Shweta has joined, I guess.
Yes, Shweta is there.
Okay.
Hello, Anjan. Yes, I am here.
Hi, Shweta. Good evening. I'm very sorry.
Hi, good evening.
I am way past my scheduled time.
That's completely all right.
Okay, so let me. Shweta is here. Okay. Just give me a second.
I think for the rest of the attendees, meanwhile, if you want to use the loo, go out, drink water, I think now is the time. We can take like a 5-minute break and we'll resume thereafter.
Yeah, Shweta, I have just made you the host.
Thank
Just
you,
check.
Anjan.
So Shweta, you have already met them, so we don't need any formalities today.
Absolutely.
Straight away start your session.
Sure, sir. If you can give me like a minute, let's start the session now.
And then recording is on, no?
I can see it's recording. It says it's recording on top.
Recording. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I think we're good to start. Let me share my screen. Okay, here we are. Can you all see my screen? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Okay, so I think you've done the hard part, which is also a good thing because I was dreading that if you've got to do the harder bit later, it becomes difficult in the day, and you've done the hard part, which is really talk about, I think you were talking about different kinds of visualizations and the visualizations, how you can make them. And I was, I think, just the last bit of it, I was fortunate enough to attend the last bit of it, and I could see that I think it's very helpful when you know how to do it, as opposed to only know the type and kind of visualizations that there are. So yesterday in our session, we talked about different types of visualizations. And today you, I think, have an idea of how to make some of these visualizations, change numbers, units, and how to play around with data. And then subsequently, when you play around with data, how does that represent on a graph, on a map, on a bar chart, on a pie chart, which is very important because at the end of the day, you are hoping to integrate all of those visualizations onto your actual work. So now, once you know how to make those charts, different types of graphs, different types of visualizations, next comes the story. The reason why you're doing perhaps any of this, hoping that some of you are expecting to become journalists tomorrow, which is that you are aspirants. Others are just hoping to use data visualization in their current jobs, wherever they're working as an analyst, perhaps in a bank, because data visualization is not just limited to journalism. Storytelling is effective everywhere. So even if I were working in a consumer-centric brand, I would be required and would be expected to know storytelling tools. And why is that? Why is there so much focus on stories? Why is there so much focus on storytelling? Anyone? Wild guess. I just want to make it interactive. So anybody who understands what is storytelling and why it's important. Feel free to be, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm hoping that you can be wrong, but you will interact. No one? Okay, in which case I think I'll do the honor. Stories essentially are easy to register. If I were, and various researchers have suggested that if I were to tell you data, 50%, 40%, that there is gender disparity in this country, that there is limitations on equal pay, that there is a lot of corruption in the country. If I were to give you numbers, your retention is likely to be much, much lower, as opposed to if I were to tell you a story, which is in an XYZ state, a certain politicians get 10 crore rupees bribe for developmental issues, to raise developmental issues in the parliament. So a certain parliamentarian takes bribes from their own constituents to raise issues of development in the parliament. If I were to tell you that story, versus if I were to tell you, do you know how many MPs are corrupt? Nearly 37% of the MPs are corrupt in that state. You are more likely to retain the story that I tell you as opposed to the numbers I tell you. Human brain is hardwired to remember anything that is of interest to them. And usually stories are more interesting than bland statistics, bland data. Even data visualization is going to be extremely bland if it's not accompanied by a story. So stories, therefore, are very, very important. Moving on. Okay, let me just take this down. Why tell stories? Sorry about the dog. So why tell stories? Because numerous studies have shown that stories aren't only more effective in making messages memorable, they're also more emotionally persuasive, right? If I were to incorporate emotions of poor people who are struggling for maybe water, who are struggling for roads, who are struggling for hospitals, and if I were to include all of that in a story, you are more likely to remember it, versus if I give you just sheer data. Anything that is spun as a story is more memorable, especially if it is emotionally persuasive. If I can evoke an emotion in you right now, I have done my job, which means I have now proven to be an effective storyteller. If you remember me as someone who got you excited, who got you to laugh, you are more likely to remember me, right? If I'm someone who can bring a smile on your face, if I'm someone who can make you cry, I am more emotionally persuasive, and that increases my value and also retention in your mind. You will retain me, my stories, more if I bring out emotions in you. There is a reason why all your 9 p.m. shows, which is the primetime shows, are shows that have more complex stories, that jahan rona dhona zyada hota hai, essentially, right? The stories that bring out emotion in you. So because studies say that message has to be memorable and emotionally persuasive, therefore it's important that we integrate data into stories. Yeah. Pair this with research that shows that we make decisions primarily with emotion and use logic to justify them later. You have a power of a story in a nutshell. So in nutshell, if you have elements like emotional vulnerability, if you have a data structure told through a story, you are able to accomplish a better job. If you can do that, then you become a great storyteller. And a storyteller, as I said, is not just needed in journalism, by the way. Storytelling is very effective in teaching, right? As a teacher myself, I can tell you how important it is for me to spin stories. If I am able to spin a story in order to communicate a message, I have done my job well. If I'm a data analyst, right? And we'll give you an example here in just a few minutes from now. If I'm a data analyst and I'm able to integrate all the data in a story, I have done my job well. So whichever job you're doing right now, think of a way of communicating through stories and you are more likely to succeed. right? So why tell stories? As I said, messages are more memorable. They're also more emotionally persuasive. And research shows that as humans, we make more emotional decisions. In fact, Ratan Tata once said, why I do what I do is because I do it first and then I justify it later. The greatest of leaders in this country, in the world, have made decisions that they could not justify first. And obviously, when it became big, took the credit for it, right? So they go by their gut, but more importantly, as humans, as I said, we are hardwired to emotions. You cannot separate a human from emotion. So therefore, what is data storytelling? Now, it becomes all the more interesting if you incorporate data into your storytelling. Data storytelling is the ability to effectively communicate insights from data sets using narratives and visualizations. You've been reading about visualizations now, you've been listening about them. It can also be used to put data insights into context for and inspire action from your audience. Right? So what you can do through data storytelling is you can put things into a context and you can inspire action for your audience. There are three components to data storytelling or any storytelling, to be honest, any storytelling. One is data. Thorough analysis of accurate, complete data serves as the foundation of your data story. You have to have data, one, which is complete, two, that is accurate, which means it's fact-checked, and it's thorough, right? Complete, thorough, accurate data. That becomes the foundation of your storytelling. You analyze that data using various measures. You can make it more descriptive, you can make it more diagnostic, depending on which business you're using it for. So let's say you're using it for a business of healthcare. You can make it more diagnostic, which means using this particular medicine, more than half the patients either got better or died or their situation became worse after having these medicines, will make it more diagnostic in nature. That information is more diagnostic. You're using that data set to diagnose something, to justify whether this medicine is working or not working. That's an example. Another could be predictive, which means when the wind patterns are this, when it's northward or eastward or westward, the probability of rain increases. So a lot of climate activists and environmental activists may use predictive data and descriptive and prescriptive analysis, or different kinds of analysis. Second, you need a narrative, a verbal or written narrative, also called a storyline. You need to have a storyline. I can simply tell you, north mein barish hogi, south mein nahi hogi, and you wouldn't care about it. But if I tell you that more houses are going to be inundated by rain, people are likely to be stranded outside, your daily life is going to be disrupted because there's going to be heavy rainfall, then that matters to you, right? It doesn't matter to simple data set, doesn't matter to you. Each of us, it really matters to us if it's happening to us or in our backyard. That's the foundation of 101 of journalism that I was taught, which is if a dog bites a man, it becomes news as long as it's happening in your backyard. But a global restructure of power, what's happening in Ukraine and Russia may not bother us as much. We really are bothered if something's happening just outside of our homes, because this shows that, because as humans, we also have a sense of community, and this shows that this is something that can happen to them, and there are neighbors, then it can also happen to us. So we feel a sense of connectedness. So a narrative is a verbal or a written narrative or a storyline, which is used to communicate insights gleaned from data and the context surrounding it, and actions you can recommend and aim to inspire your audience. Inspire your audience. You'll hear that again and again. What is inspiring your audience? We'll get to that also. I'll give you an example of it. Finally, visualization. So visual representation of your data and narrative can be useful for communication. Communicate story clearly and memorably using data and narrative. And it can be through various types of visualizations, as we discussed yesterday: charts, graphs, diagrams, pictures, or videos. So those are the three important. What are these? Components of data storytelling: data, narrative, and visualizations. Moving on. How do you craft a compelling data narrative. That is very important to learn. How do you really craft a data narrative that is compelling, that gets people's attention? Now, data storytelling uses same narrative elements as any story you've read or heard before. डेटा स्टोरी टेलिंग के वो ही एलिमेंट्स होते हैं जो आप किसी भी स्टोरी में एसेंशियली पढ़ते हो. कैरेक्टर्स, सेटिंग, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंड रेजोल्यूशन, ये एलिमेंट है एक कंपेलिंग डेटा नैरेटिव के, राइट? कैरेक्टर्स, सेटिंग, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंड resolution. So to help illustrate this, imagine you're a journalist and just discovered that a company's recent decline in customer has been driven by all genders between ages of 14 and 23. You find that the drop was caused by a viral social media post highlighting your company's negative image and craft a narrative using 4 key story elements. The 4 key story elements: character, setting, conflict and resolution. तो मान लीजिए कि आप एक पत्रकार हैं. सडनली आपको पता चलता है कि कंपनी की जो सेल्स है उसमें या कस्टमर बेस है उसमें डिक्लाइन हो रहा है. और both all genders, I mean, all genders, yeah, they're not just 2 genders, there are a lot of other gender is a spectrum, right? So all genders, male, female, trans, but in the age group of 14 to 23. So ये डेटा आपके पास आ गया है. ये इसीलिए हो रहा है क्योंकि एक किसी ने सोशल मीडिया पे पोस्ट डाला इस कंपनी को लेकर कि यहाँ पे लोगों का हैरेसमेंट होता है, कंपनी में लोगों को ढंग से ट्रीट नहीं किया जाता. कई बार ऐसा हुआ. H&M के खिलाफ आप देखते हो, आप अगर पढ़ते होंगे तो आपने देखा होगा कि वहां के वर्कर्स की जो कंडीशंस हैं वो अच्छी नहीं है. तो उसके बाद क्या हुआ, लोगों ने H&M से कपड़े खरीदना बंद कर दिया. ऐसे ही एलिगेशन ज़ारा के ऊपर भी लगे. तो कई ऐसी बड़ी बड़ी कंपनी है जहां कई सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट की वजह से ऑडियंस डिक्लाइन हुआ. अब इस केस में आपको पता चलता है कि ये कंपनी है, मान लीजिए आप ही की कंपनी है या आपके किसी, क्योंकि आप यहाँ काम करते हैं तो अब आपको डेटा चार्ट प्रिपेयर करना है, आपको समझाना है मैनेजमेंट को कि क्या हुआ है. तो आप क्या करेंगे, एक अच्छी स्टोरी कैसे क्राफ्ट करेंगे? सबसे पहला, कैरेक्टर्स. द प्लेयर्स एंड स्टेक होल्डर्स इंक्लूडिंग पीपल बिटवीन द एजेस ऑफ 14 to 23. Because these are conscious consumers. ये कौन है? Conscious consumers हैं. This doesn't need to be a part of your story, but you should define the key players of your story. Now, आपको जरूरी नहीं है कि आपको ये बताना है कि मेरे key players कौन है अपनी story में. जब आप story बता रहे हैं या PPT बना रहे हैं, आप जो भी बना रहे हैं, है ना, like whatever you're making, you don't need to spell it out, but you must know who your intended target is. What are your characters? Who are you making this, entire PPT or presentation for? These are your intended players. These are the stakeholders, people between the ages of 14 to 23. These are conscious people, which means what? That their purchasing decisions are made on the basis of the image of the company that they're buying from. And this is not just, by the way, this is for everyone who's listening. This is not just limited to purchasing industries. This has now become a very prominent thing, right? Companies that are not environmentally conscious, companies that are not friendly to employees, companies that are exploiting the nature, companies that are killing flora and fauna, companies that are dumping garbage, are companies which get heavily penalized by government and conscious consumers. Big investors, they pull out immediately. They don't want to be associated because we are all getting more and more conscious, right? हम कहाँ से कपड़े खरीदते हैं, हम कौन सा टूथपेस्ट यूज करते हैं, हम कौन सी ग्रोसरी आइटम्स लेते हैं, ये सारी चॉइसेस हमारी ड्रिवन होती हैं कंपनीज के एथिक्स से. कुडनकुलम का नाम कितनों ने सुना है? या ओके, कुडनकुलम, कोडाई कनाल कितनों ने सुना है? कोडाई कनाल बहुत फेमस है साउथ में. Anybody from South? Why is Kodaikanal famous?
Ma'am, Kudankulam is famous for nuclear plant, this nuclear power plant that it is in Tamil Nadu and famous for that. There were protests also, protests also.
They were protesting, absolutely. Anybody who knows why is Kodaikanal famous? Anybody? No? Okay. Let's give you an example of Kudankulam. I think it was Abhilasha who was speaking, and they told us about how Kudankulam has a nuclear power plant, and that nuclear power plant is making people sick. There were huge protests by localites because that nuclear power plant, and we all want a nuclear power plant. Why? Because we all believe in clean energy. We do not want to be using natural resources that are finite. We want to be using alternate technology, greener technology, in order to make more energy. So we are now, our energy consumption is driven by more sustainable choices. However, none of us want a nuclear power plant in our backyard, right? आप हम ही नहीं देंगे. मैं जिस सोसाइटी में रहती हूँ वहां पे लोग टावर नहीं लगाने देते हैं because they say it emits different waves and whatever, which none of which is, by the way, scientifically proven. Half of it is not scientifically proven, but they say कि it's very harmful. तो इसलिए वो कोई टावर ही नहीं लगने देते हैं मोबाइल नेटवर्क का, तो इस वजह से सिग्नल ही नहीं आते. So that is the amount of consciousness that has been pumped into people by social media. Half of it may not be true, but even a part of it, if it's true, then it raises questions. So in Kudankulam, this nuclear power plant established between India, it's a collaboration between India and Russia, as a result of which people start getting sick. तो ग्राउंड वाटर उनका इफेक्ट होता है, लोग बीमार पड़ने शुरू हो जाते हैं, और पावर प्लांट लगने से पहले ही वहां पे मैसिव प्रोटेस्ट होने शुरू हो गए थे. और उसकी वजह से क्या होता है? उसकी वजह से ये होता है कि जो पावर प्लांट बनाना चाह रहे हैं, जो लोग पावर प्लांट स्टैब्लिश करना चाह रहे हैं, डिफरेंट एजेंसीज, डिफरेंट प्राइवेट कंपनीज जो पावर प्लांट से जुड़ी हुई हैं, उनको हैवी लॉसेस होते हैं. Right? This is big, and not just in India. As a result, unko heavy losses hote hain pan India, not just in South, pan India and all across the world, because they're like, what is this company doing? It doesn't care for its consumers. It doesn't care for its people. Similarly, Kodaikanal was in news, and you must read about Kodaikanal because that has resulted in a huge backlash against a certain FMCG company. I'm not going to name it. That FMCG company started dumping its toxic waste in Kodaikanal, and people started going hammer and tongs, and as a result of which the sales fell. So what am I trying to tell you essentially is that if you have data, there is also a story, right? And if you can find that story and then use that data to tell that story, right, then that becomes a better story narrative any day. So characters are important to find, but it's also important to find the setting. Set the scene by yes. Sorry, someone said something? Sivanand? No? Okay. Now, setting is very important because you're setting the scene by explaining that there's been a recent drop in customer-driven, this needs to be corrected, but there's been a recent drop in customers of all genders between ages of 14 to 23. Now you use a data visualization to show the decline. So, एज ग्रुप के 14 से 20 में, फिर 20 से 23 में, फिर किस जेंडर में ज्यादा डिक्लाइन हुआ है, तो उससे आप सेटिंग क्रिएट करोगे. यू ट्राई एंड ब्रेक इट डाउन फर्दर, राइट? सो you show an audience decline type, you show gender type, you show age type, and you break down the data to understand which is that segment that's been most affected. Highlight the largest drop in young users. So you will use data visualization to show to the management of the company or to the world that, look, this is the most affected people. These are the people who are not buying from this company anymore. Third, you show the conflict. Conflict, again, just like data, conflict is also at heart of human nature. A lot of stories only get our attention because there's conflict in those stories. So describe the root issue. What is the root issue? The root issue is the viral social media post that highlighted your company's work environment and caused tens of thousands of young audience to stop interacting with the brand. Incorporate research about how audience are more conscious about workplace harassment. Remind the team of your company's current practices to clarify why customers stopped buying, right? So there is this viral post that talks about the workplace harassment in your company, that talks about how various people who are working in the company are not treated very well. किसी company worker ने बाहर जाके एक social media post डाला और उसके बाद आपकी sales decline होने लग गई. So what are you going to do is you're going to bring the conflict at the center of your story. You'll describe the root cause. This is the root cause. And then you will remind the team of your company's current practices, that these are the current practices in the company, to clarify why customers stopped buying. So conflict number one, working hours are not proper. Conflict number two, you cannot really go on breaks. Conflict number three, seniors are toxic. There could be a variety of reasons, but you have to show the conflict. Where is the conflict? So far, so good? Any question? Okay. Then there comes the resolution. Now we keep talking about resolution, and I want you guys to know that it's very important because you have to propose a solution. Whatever you do tomorrow, whichever field you are in, and one of the biggest criticism of journalism today is that they often tell you the problem, but they don't tell you the solution. It's not their job to tell you the solution, but they can ask someone who knows the solution. If there is a problem with corruption, then ask civil society members, what is the solution to tackle corruption? If there is a problem with a company where work culture is not good, then you talk to a labor law expert. You talk to someone who can tell you what can change. You have to propose a solution based on this data, because you collected data, you analyze the data, you showed the conflict. Finally, you propose a solution. You present a long-term goal to pivot to better practices. You also center marketing and public relations efforts on making this pivot visible across all audience segments. What you will now do is you will talk about better practices. You will talk about what are the standard practices that one should adopt if you are to regain that lost customer base. You lost customer base, but if you want to regain this, and for other companies, forget about you want to regain this. अगर मैं उस company में नहीं काम करती हूँ, मैं ये report बना रही हूँ as a journalist, then for me, I would show it to the rest of the world what not to do. What not to do if you want to create a better work environment, right? Lots of these companies that do not have, and startups usually that come under the radar because they don't have a great work culture, because sometimes founders can be really toxic. It becomes a one-man show. So you have to remind these companies of what better practices look like. So you have to pivot towards marketing, public relations, and changing the culture from within. And this pivot should also be visible to audience, right? Your audience, your readers, if you are working outside of the company, should know that this is what the company can do. If you're working inside the company, then you obviously have to present this to the management so that they can do something about it. So you use visualizations that show the investment that is required. You can again use data to show investment that is required for practices that can pay off in form of earnings through customers from growing environmentally conscious market segment. So you can then basically use all of this data to finally present a visualization, even in the resolution. And what you can do is you can tell people what the solution are. You can talk to experts, and then you can further come up with, if you're working within the company and you're hoping to regain that customer base, you will also present a data visualization that this is part marketing money, this is part PR money that we can club and utilize towards regaining our market position. And then you can also talk about what other investments that you would need if you want to make the situation better, how to pivot, how to do better. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, I want to quickly do a couple of, before I take your questions, I want to quickly do, a case study with you. Can we do that now? Does everyone have a pen and paper? And I want this to be very engaging, please. Pen and paper, everyone? Quickly, can everyone grab a pen and paper, please? Yeah, okay. Should I go ahead? Thumbs up if I can go ahead. Okay, I can go ahead. I'll first stop sharing my screen. Now it says how to, okay, there you are. Okay, this looks better. I hope you've all noted down elements of a good storytelling, how to craft a good story, what are the elements of a good story. And based on that, you will be able to help me and may be able to identify each of these segments. And I want you to quickly do a case study, and we can discuss this also as we speak. Is everyone ready? I will type this down, or should I narrate it? Whichever way you guys prefer. Should I type it down? Okay, no, fine, then yes, okay, I'll type it down. Thank you. Okay, I've written it down. I will also explain this to you. This is just, I've written it shortly down, but largely the idea is a large number of people died during COVID in the age bracket of 45 to 60. So there you go. You have a variable age bracket of 45 to 60. Reasons include lack of oxygen, lack of doctors. It could also mean lack of hospital beds, and lack of basically healthcare services. I would request you all to craft a story with all its elements. I will start sharing my screen again so that you can see what are the story elements. But if you can tell me, okay, I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yeah, okay. So characters, setting, conflict, and resolution. Imagine you are a journalist reporting on this story, and this is a data story, right? And I therefore would want to know who are the characters first. Anyone? Who are the characters in this story? You have to be interactive, otherwise we don't know what we've learned. Anybody, please feel free to be wrong, you guys. Like it's so important that we talk, that we exchange ideas and information. It's not about being right, it's just about talking. Yeah, I think someone was brave to open their mic.
Yes, ma'am. Here characters, because I am traveling, so there are little bit noises coming. But my main characters are like common people who suffered, and then the doctors, then the policy makers and people in government, then businesses. What did they do on the call to serve the society? In the need of hour. So there are many characters in this can be included in this story.
Yes, we can. Thank you, Shivanand. You can mute yourself now. That's a good one. So the characters in this story are not necessarily people between the ages of 45 to 60. Those are people who died. The characters here could be people, number one, whose families were affected by COVID. Number two, healthcare workers, policy makers. Number three, politicians. So people essentially who have been affected. So stakeholders, who are the stakeholders? People who have been affected, people who can do something better about it. And then your general audience who just wants to keep a tab on what's happening in the country. So there are a variety of characters here. There's no specific character here, right? So those are the people you are catering to. Moving on, let's understand the setting here. What's the setting here? What's the scene here? What is happening? Anybody?
The lack of medical infrastructure, basically.
Okay, lack of infrastructure. What else is happening? People are dying?
People are dying.
Yes, people are dying. People are dying due to
Health problem, infrastructure and all those healthcare problems.
Other healthcare problems, lack of infra, people are dying. So now is the time we use data visualization to show how we can tell the story. So who are the people who died the most?
In between 45 to 60, I think.
Between 45 to 60.
Yeah.
Exactly. In between 45 to 60, we use one of the data visualization. So you can use anything. You can use a bar graph. You can use a time. I think in this case, I would like to use a line graph because I want to show how many people are dying in the first year of Corona, in the second year of Corona, in the first 6 months, in the second 6 months. So you can see a spike and you can see whenever it declined and then you can see a spike. You can also use an area map because then you can show how many people are dying in which cities. So it'll tell you, or more people are dying in these states. So which means there's lesser infrastructure available. So you set accountability, right? So when you're setting accountability, you can set accountability through brilliant visualizations. You can use area maps, you can use line graph. It depends on really what data you have. In this case, the data we had was which states are doing poorly when it comes to COVID management. Which states do not have adequate doctors and healthcare infrastructure, right? So we could use an area map, we could use a line graph. A line graph will essentially show us number of people who are dying over time, right? Number of people who have recovered. So you must have seen those. There used to be Google, in fact, created this interesting chart. Every time you would Google COVID deaths, there was an interesting chart that it would show, basically tell you, oh, there's been a spike, oh, this is becoming lower today, higher, lower. It would track daily, on a daily basis. Also because data would come in from various countries. Now, data in this country wasn't very reliable because people were dying of secondary causes due to COVID, and that wasn't accounted for COVID death. You can also show specific hospitalization records, right? So you find the data that you have, and then a pie chart would be very important. So these are the number of people who were admitted, of which this much recovered, and these many people succumbed or died, right? So you therefore use one of the data visualization method to set up the grounds for the story. Does that make sense? Yeah. Shifting focus. What's the conflict here? What's the conflict in the COVID story? Anybody? What is the conflict in the COVID story? There's a lot of conflict in the COVID story.
Lack of healthcare, like services, doctors, not availability of healthcare services.
Yeah.
And like medicines and treatment. That was not also very clear at that time.
I think one of the biggest conflict for me at that time was, firstly, why don't we have enough hospitals? I understand we don't have enough doctors, but if we have a set healthcare budget, and we've had this budget for good 75 years now, where was this utilized? If not in building primary and secondary and tertiary healthcare services, right? Clearly, doctors cannot be made within a day. It takes 5 years to do an MBBS program. But hospitals can be made every 5 years, 6 years. So for me, at the heart of COVID was absence of healthcare services and seeking accountability from policymakers, from bureaucrats, from the local government, right? So again, data visualization. How many hospitals were built in the last 10 years of the government? Brilliant data visualization, right? Number of hospitals that were built 10 years, 70 years का ग्राफ आप दिखा सकते हैं. हर साल में कितने अस्पताल बनते हैं, किस स्टेट में कितने अस्पताल बनते हैं. Brilliant data visualization to show conflict. Okay, so this government only made 5, this government made 8, the other government made none. So what did they do with the money that was allocated for health services? Right? Where did the healthcare budget go? So that is one of the biggest conflict. What is the other conflict? The other conflict is more people conflict, which is what I also faced when my parents were admitted, was people who were supposed to be in their job doing their duty were not there. People who were supposed to be doing their duty, especially in government hospitals, were not there. So it basically showed poor management, poor people management, and I know that they were burdened, right? I know a lot of them were burdened, but also this was a troubling time for everybody, right? So I think one of the basic conflict was poor management of government hospitals. Private hospitals were better managed, much better managed, right? And while, by the way, I don't think it would surprise you, there were more resources allocated to government hospitals. Private hospitals had to seek it. So when they would run out of oxygen, they had to seek it, but more resources were allocated to state-run and central-run hospitals. Are state-run, there's no central-run hospital, but a state-run hospital would get more, more oxygen cylinders, would get more medicines that were in dearth back then. So if you had a relative which was admitted in a government hospital, you would know that they will get the medicines. But if they were in the private, you had to fetch the medicine, which is what happened in my case as well. I had to fetch the medicine. So the conflict is more human conflict, therefore, that you have a lot of resources, good, but you don't have a lot of people who are managing these resources well, which means, again, reeks of corruption. It reeks of corruption that these people were employed not on the basis of their capability, just because they knew someone, right? So that's, again, a second conflict for me.
I think apart from correction, that was fear also. Fear of getting, like, because it was infectious, like we could get this problem about COVID due to infectious. So communicable it was. And secondly, misinformation was also one of the reasons. I think it was also one of the conflicts type, because people were so much misinformed about it, treatment and everything. So that is also one of the, I think. So what do you say?
What I would say, ma'am, that if you are working in a hospital, the last thing you fear is how communicable the disease is. My husband is a doctor, so I can tell you from a position of knowledge. Like I know that the last thing doctors fear is how communicable it is. Like that's never a problem with them, because they know that. And I've seen how, and again, when people say, oh, you have to be softer to these people, they're working 24/7 around the clock. I understand that, because I have a family that's working 24/7 around the clock. My father-in-law, my sister-in-law, the senior doctors, all of them. So I know it, like it's personal to me. So I know how they're working around the clock. At the same time, you have to understand that is the job. You chose that job. You are in public service, right? So one of the biggest conflict for me was, and if they're scared, then they don't deserve to be doctors.
Yeah.
If you're
not
scared,
only for doctors, I think for patients also, and their relatives or the
patients
attendees.
and relatives, nobody was expecting to visit, ma'am. Nobody was expecting a relative will visit, right? Like nobody would want a relative to visit. But for me, if you talk about deaths of people in hospitals, I think you have to somewhere set the accountability with the hospital staff as well. And because you're setting accountability with the hospital staff, the biggest conflict for me would also be how negligent or careful they were in handling that hospital staff. And even that can be represented through data visualization. That data visualization could tell you the remind again, in this case particularly, people of this country that these are the current practices that are used. That this is the number of people we are. Can you hear me? Because it says my internet is unstable. Oh, you can hear me. All right. These are the number of doctors that we are producing. These are the number of hospitals we are building, but it's not enough, right? This is the oxygen that we are giving, so it's not enough. So that's the conflict. And you can remind the people of this country about the current practices. And finally, I think the resolution, you propose a solution, again, based on data. Get more, how much do we need? So we need, data suggests that we need a doctor per 1,000 patients. Assumingly, we need a 1 doctor per 1,000 patients, then you get enough doctors, let's say next 5 years' time. So that would be the resolution. And again, that would be represented through beautiful data charts, right? You will have beautiful charts that can tell you what you need to match up to that level. God forbid, if there is another pandemic ever, then you would need these many hospitals, you would need this much infrastructure. And you can tell the story not only as a journalist, but you can also tell the story as a medical practitioner. You can tell the story as a policymaker, because then you need to propose solutions. And the only way you can propose solution is through charts and data. So you've told a human story, people are dying, and you have used a brilliant data storytelling tool, brilliant data storytelling methods to tell that story in a more meaningful fashion, while also making sure that it registers with the people who are responsible for making change, right? So maybe the government, maybe the people, maybe, whoever's at the helm of affairs and whoever's responsible for the change. So again, resolution part is also, as I said, where you can use a lot of visualization, and you can tell government, okay, so you need to spend your annual budget, health budget, to this much if you are to cater to a similar corona situation ever in the future. Right? So you have to put in these many 1,000 crore rupees more. Every state must get this much. States that are lagging behind, Bihar should get more. So you understand, this is all data, right? The human story is the death, but this is data. And you are incorporating a human story in the data. So Bihar people are dying more, Jharkhand people are dying more, a little bit more health budget there, right? As opposed to other states which are still better off. There are states like Kerala which are better off. Tamil Nadu was better off. Some would say even Maharashtra was better off, although there were a lot of cases. But Kerala, for example, very, very well managed COVID is what they call it. The state from where it's all started managed it better than the other states because of their faster action plan, because of the kind of progress that they were making on a day-on-day basis, and the fact that they were registering that progress. There was so many people who were actively participating. They were, I am told, when I spoke to a few people, representatives, doctors from Kerala, they were telling me how there were command centers, which is so important, right? Command centers were set up quickly. So data, ladies and gentlemen, is important. It will tell you the state of affairs, but until you have a human story, that data will not make sense. And it's important you integrate your human story with the data. And when you marriage them together, what you get is data storytelling, a beautiful combination that registers with people more, and that will help you generate quick action. I hope that works. And I think that's that from my side. I hope I haven't spoken a lot. Any questions? Questions? No question? Okay. Email ID, again, in case for those who wanted, you can also contact me if you think of a question later. Please let me know. I'll be very happy to entertain, to talk, and we can perhaps stay in touch. Obviously, you have Professor Dhulia's and other details from newswriter.in, and we would love to have you back again in future with us.
Thank you, Shweta. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
And Shweta, you are the host, so you can end the meeting for all.
Thank you so much, Abhilasha. I can see what an engaging session. Thanks for explaining. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. All those who are there, this is one last request. If you can all open your cameras, we can at least click a picture of every person who is attending. So just for 5 seconds, and I'll take a quick picture, and you will have a memory of this session. Okay, I can see Shivanand did that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Asha did that as well. Dr. Rathi, Navneet, Shreya, if all of you can just quickly open your cameras for like 5 seconds, I'll just click a picture and then you can close it again. No one else is daring? We all look bad. No, none of us look exceptionally.
Only 2 or 3.
We all look like we've had a long day, and nobody is exceptionally pretty. So you can open your cameras. No one.
But it was a great session. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
ma'am, it was a great session from your side. It was wholeheartedly. You explained everything. We learned a lot of new things. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Ablasha closed her camera. Okay, there you are. We have a camera open. I'm going to just take a picture. And there we go. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.